It was a Friday afternoon, and the sun was out. I was doing my first mow of the backyard for 2017. The grass had grown a bit wild after the break, and I was keen to tidy things up. I'd already mowed the front yard and was about halfway through the back. It was going smoothly, but then something changed. Over the course of about 5 minutes, I became unusually tired, breathless, and started to sweat. A lot. It wasn't just regular exertion sweat either, it poured off me. I stopped mowing and leaned on the handle, catching my breath and silently scolding myself for how out of shape I must have become. Still, I wasn't ready to give up. I started the mower again, determined to finish the job. But within the next minute, things took a serious turn. My sweating and breathlessness intensified rapidly. Then came a heavy, oppressive pain, like a massive boulder had been placed squarely on my chest. It wasn't sharp, it was steady, constant, and utterly dominating. I realized then that the pain wasn't limited to my chest. A deep, wrenching ache had started radiating through my middle back, and soon it spread to the backs of both arms, slightly more on the left than the right. At that point, I knew this was no normal exhaustion. I immediately stopped and went inside, barely able to make it in. As soon as I got in the door, I collapsed down onto the floor. I called out to my wife and told her I was in serious trouble. I asked her to take me to the ER, urgently. About 45 minutes after the symptoms first started, I arrived at the nearest emergency room. It was 4:30 p.m. The staff moved quickly. Within another 45 minutes, I was more stable, comfortable, and out of immediate pain, thanks to a combination of drips, a couple of injections, and some aspirin. I was admitted and taken up to a hospital room for monitoring and treatment. During that time, they tracked my vitals closely. My blood pressure, which had spiked to 185 over 125, and my heart rate, which had surged to over 160 BPM, slowly came down to around 150 over 110, and HR around 120 plus. They drew blood at intervals and watched closely as my cardiac troponin levels rose, confirming what we feared. I was having a heart attack. The team immediately began efforts to lower both my heart rate and blood pressure. They started a regimen of medication, including a nitroglycerin IV. Because it was a holiday weekend, the cardiology team decided to move me to the ICU for close observation and better drug management. The challenge was to find the right balance, keeping my blood pressure low enough to protect my heart, but not so low as to risk organ failure. Nitroglycerin, being a vasodilator, was a key part of this strategy. It worked, but came with a price, a relentless pounding headache. I was only given acetaminophen for the pain, which did next to nothing. The headache persisted from the moment the drip began until about an hour after it was stopped, roughly 2.5 days of misery. As a regular coffee drinker, I was told the headache would likely feel even worse, and it did. It was miserable. Throughout my stay, I was checked every 3 hours, day and night. Not once between Friday night and my eventual discharge did I get more than 2.5 hours of continuous sleep. For the most part, I managed to stay calm, but by late Monday night, the accumulated lack of rest began to seriously affect my mental clarity and sense of calm. Even though I understood the importance of the vital checks and injections, the exhaustion was wearing me down. The medical team managed to keep me stable and out of further cardiac distress until Monday morning. Over the weekend, they had performed multiple tests, including a CT scan and a Doppler ultrasound. By then, they had a good idea of where the problem was likely to be. Monday morning, I was taken to the cath lab and put into a twilight state. They made an incision near my groin and accessed my femoral artery, guiding a wire up toward my heart to explore the suspected blockage. At first, all the usual arteries looked clear. I was somewhat aware of what was happening, drifting in and out while the medical team casually chatted about rugby and Hawaiian vacations. Then I heard the surgeon pause and say, "It can't be his left anterior, could it?" A few moments passed. There was some silence. Then, wow! They had found the culprit, a 95% blockage right at a critical junction in the left anterior descending artery. They immediately placed a hybrid stent in the artery, restoring flow. The improvement in my heart's function was almost instant. On the way out of the cath lab, the surgeon turned to me and said something that hit me hard. For every one person my age with this specific blockage who makes it through, 20 or more don't. I had been incredibly lucky. That procedure took place Monday morning. I stayed another night for observation because any procedure involving the femoral artery carries significant risk. They released me back into the world at 11 a.m. on Tuesday morning, February 21st, 2017. I felt immensely blessed. I was sent home with a collection of four essential medications: a statin to lower cholesterol, a beta blocker to help reduce heart rate and oxygen demand, a platelet inhibitor to prevent blood clots in the new stent, and baby aspirin for daily maintenance. The platelet inhibitor, I was told, would be mandatory for at least a year. As for the path ahead, I was instructed to take it easy for several weeks and make significant changes to my lifestyle. My diet had to become heart healthy overnight, and I realized that I'd had no idea I even had a cholesterol problem until it was nearly too late. In hindsight, the signs had been there for at least 6 months, probably longer. Frequent, unexplained sweating during light activity was something I had brushed off as poor fitness or hot weather. If I had known that this could be a red flag, I would have seen a doctor much earlier. So for me, that is what my heart attack felt like from the very beginning through the long weekend in ICU, right up until the moment I came home and typed this.